Hi.
Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, it's one of those things, where do you start, isn't it? At the moment, I'm working at Laurel Court as the chaplain there. Recently gone down, lost a few hours just recently. But it's a job that I didn't really expect to get, I must admit. I'll take you a bit further back than that. A few years ago, I started my BA at Luther King House. And when I was doing the BA, it felt like I was doing this. I recently started going back to church again. And it was one of those things that I thought, well, I need to know a little bit more about what I'm talking about. So I went to Luther King House, as I say, and started my BA. And friends who have known me as Alma before church said, why on earth are you doing this? And it was, at the time, I couldn't even tell them. I had no idea. It was one of those things that had sort of presented itself to me. And until later, when I realised that God was asking me to do something for God's work, was that I realised just why I was doing this BA. And now I've gone through that. It took a few years, but I've gone through that as a part-time person. And then I started work before MHA as a carer for a chap with dementia. I was more or less his personal assistant, I suppose, than carer. And I realised that that kind of work with him was just the most wonderful work. Completely out of the blue. I'd worked for the tax office for 30 odd years. So this work was completely, utterly different. And working with this gentleman, I realised that I was really in the right place at the right time. And eventually, as people continued to ask why I was still doing the BA and now the Masters, I realised that God really did have a plan for me, and it came to a stage where you couldn't ignore that plan any longer, and I had to take that next step and start to look towards where my work would be eventually. As I say, with MHA, by my own surprise that I actually got the job, but I did. I remember, I'll tell you this little story. I went for the interview not really expecting anything. I was driving home after the interview, complete nervous wreck, driving home, and the phone rang. So I pulled up and answered the phone. This was 20 minutes after the interview. You've got the job. And nobody was more surprised than me, I have to say. I'm thrilled. And that was almost 5 years ago now. And it's been a learning curve, because I've never done anything like this before. I had a good introduction to it from the previous chaplain. And it's just been the most wonderful work, working with older people of many ages, actually, some younger than me and some clearly quite a lot older than me. So it's been a roller coaster ride, but I've enjoyed every second of it, I have to say, even through all the challenges at the moment. So it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience.
And can you tell us a little about Laurel Court?
Well, Laurel Court, as I'm sure a lot of people on this Zoom meeting will know, is the largest MHA home in the UK. It's 91 beds, and since I've been there, it has got up to almost 91. Obviously, with the pandemic, things have altered quite dramatically, as I'm sure you can imagine. And I must say thank you so much for all the prayers. They are so much appreciated, because it has been a really difficult journey just recently. But it's a very vibrant place, even despite everything. We've got a manager relatively new to the place, she leads from the front. You know, you get one of these managers that just takes you with her, and she's just been an absolute blessing. And though she's not a person of faith, she loves to come to the services. She will take communion. She will do all these things that a person who does this leading well will come along to all these things, and sees all the residents daily. It's a wonderful place to work, though, as I say, it really does have its challenges, particularly at this time.
And what is it like working at Laurel Court in COVID-19 circumstances? What has changed?
Well, pretty much everything. Before lockdown, we were quite a long time before we actually had anybody that was poorly with the COVID. And we actually locked down about a week before government advised us to, because the manager said we need to be ahead of the game. And so it was locked down, and obviously there's been great distress with residents, families. They really do want to be there seeing their loved ones, even at great risk. But we couldn't do anything about it. We locked down for the security and the health of the people that live there, the people that work there, and also for the people that visit. So initially everything changed. We personally, as the chaplain there, my role changed quite a lot as well, because there is something that I'm sure you're aware of called a super spreader, that a person that goes from person to person that's got the disease, is just so easy to pass it on. It would be just a dreadful misuse of my chaplaincy to put other people at unnecessary risk. But what I found, my role changed into looking after staff and looking after the residents' families, who were, as I say, were in desperate need of news, and good news especially, because they like the residents, are great news watchers, and they will watch news 24/7 given half a chance, and it's not the most healthy thing to do sometimes. So I sort of became the conduit between the residents and the residents' families, and we sent backwards and forwards photos, letters, and staff read the letters to the people that were in lockdown. And so, as I say, my role changed quite dramatically. But it seemed to work, and I've had lots of good feedback from residents' families to say that without that, they would have felt even more lost with not being able to see people. So the role did change dramatically, as I say, but it changed, and it's actually helped me get to know the families better as well. I got quite well acquainted with lots of people, and people ring me up at all times of day, and we can have these really good conversations. How's mum? How's dad? How the other residents, which is lovely, that because as people visit, they also see the other residents around as well. So they've got to know people as friends, and not just their own family member that they come to visit. So as I say, it has changed. And there is always this hope that things will get back to a more regular way of being. But we are waiting on government guidance, and also the guidance from MHA to make sure that people remain safe.
What kind of worship are you able to do at the moment?
Well, as I say, it became very difficult to do anything in a corporate way. But what I could do was share resources, and I spent many happy hours actually writing letters and prayers and thoughts for the day on a regular basis for the residents, and they've rung me sometimes, because we have telephones, and they've rung me sometimes and had perhaps a small prayer over the phone, and so that's worked really well. But people do miss our what I've discovered over these years is that their favourite thing, generally speaking, is songs of praise. And so we had somebody donated a screen and equipment that we could do songs of praise. We downloaded lots of things from YouTube, and before lockdown would get quite a few people, and we'd do our own songs of praise, and I'd just ask people, what's your favourite hymn, what's your favourite carol, if it was that time of year. And so then we'd share prayers, and we'd have our own thoughts, and I'd ask people about their family life, what they used to do, all that kind of thing, and that was wonderful. And that's felt like the rug has been pulled from under my feet a little bit, and I'm not alone in this. The other chaplains that I speak to have said similar things, that they certainly want to get back to some kind of ordinariness, that people can enjoy worship again. I think things will change in the fairly near future. I am visiting people more now for private prayer, but it is what it is, and there's nothing much we can do about it until we're given the go ahead to move forward again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christine.